You are not your own worst enemy. When it comes to diet and exercise, you can't possibly fight yourself and win.
Shoulder pain with dips is something that a lot of folks struggle with, especially when it comes to using bodyweight training as a primary mode of strength training. And this is something that used to plague me. In fact, I used to have all sorts of injuries when it came to dips. I remember there was one time I was doing regular dips on solid bars, not rings, had 70 pounds on a dip belt, and I did it and I was like, okay, that was good. And I was a little hunched over when I was doing it, and I stood up and it felt like I had battery acid getting poured down my spine. The dip is a classic powerlifting move, in which I mean it's very chronically overloaded. So I'm mentioning that because the tips I'm going to give you today will probably, so to speak, weaken your dip. So you're not going to use nearly as much weight or do as much reps as you think you can. And that's usually a step in the right direction. Because when it comes to, well, any exercise, but particularly bodyweight training, if you want to get stronger, builder, you have to do it in the least advantageous way possible. You want to make it as hard as possible through technique, because typically that will allow the most stress to be in the muscle, not in the joints, like in the shoulders. So here's a couple things you can do. Number one, always make sure your dip is just as much about your lats and your back. Okay, so try this for size. Get into the dip bars, push those shoulders down. They should be all the way down, you know, away from the ears. And as you go down into the dip, they shouldn't move up. Okay, have someone like videotape you front facing on a dip. You should see your neck the whole time, as opposed to this. This is why I had that battery acid going down my, see, I'm doing the whole tortoise, getting the head in the shell. Avoid that. You don't want that. Half of the strength of the dip is in the back and the chest. Chest and back is all about this sort of thing. So you got to get it down and back. Chest is up and forward, not in front of you like that. Next is supination. Okay, so I've done this in previous videos. Take your arms, supinate, pronate, supinate, pronate. So when you're doing your dips, you want to make sure that your arm is rotated as much back as possible. Think about it this way. The front of your deltoid, or the side of your deltoid, wants to be as far away from like this ledge of your chest as possible when doing dips. So you don't want to have this close together. You want to have your shoulder rotated down and back. What that's going to do is it's going to bring your elbows in, stick the chest out, and again, it's going to help with that backward motion. Now, this is where bar dips, you know, with the solid straight bars, this is where they are usually not the best option. I hate doing dips on solid bars most of the time. Given the choice, I'll do them on rings or suspension straps. Why? Because damn bars are so freaking wide. You know, if I really tuck everything back, my hands are here and my elbows are like tucked in. It's too damn wide. It's like, dear God, is Andre the Giant on this thing or something? It's way too wide. Manufacturers out there, get them narrower for Christ's sake. Ideally, your handles are right about shoulder width. And when you go down, that elbow is right in onto the side. I always think, get the forearm to physically rub against you. Okay, so supination. Full stop and pause at the bottom. I see this a lot. You know, people like, they're very strong, their technique is good, they go down and they're like jerking out of the bottom, they're bouncing out of the bottom. When you're down there, all of your muscles are in the weakest position. They're stretched out, they're elongated. People have a lot of trouble keeping the activation on those muscles. So again, if there's tension in a muscle, it's not in a joint. If it's on a joint, it's not on a muscle. So you're in the weakest position possible. Then you bounce and you get this jolt going through, which essentially a lot of times means you're just tearing things because it's not in the muscle in particular. It's like, let's just put you in the worst position you can get and then just rip things apart. So I always recommended this. Come down, stop, full pause, then come back up. Down, back up. Down, whatever speed, I don't care, but stop. Make sure you kill off the momentum. You'll get stronger too. And then finally, start at the bottom with muscle activation. Okay, so remember, muscle activation, everything depends on your activation. Really, the exercise, no matter what tool you're using, exercise is not about using your body, it's about using your muscles. How well can you use your muscles? That's always basically what it boils down to. If your results suck, your muscle activation sucks. So it's a good thing to practice. I always start, I put the rings and stuff about chest height, I always start in the bottom position, get it, everything where I want it to be, and then I lift my legs off and I push up. Because when you start up here and then you lower yourself down, you're in the strongest position, and then as you're coming down, it's kind of like saying, okay, muscles, figure it out. Like trying to teach someone to juggle by just throwing the clubs at him and saying, here, catch and juggle. It's too reactive. It's too reactive. Be proactive about it. So start at the bottom position. You can do this with your push-ups too. Start laying on the floor. Turn it all on. Turn on the muscles as hard as you can. Then go on up. I guarantee you, again, it's going to make it 10 times harder, but far safer on the joints. And you're going to learn a lot about how your muscles are actually engaging and working with it, and you can move on from there. So hopefully these tips help you if you've got any joint pains or something. And as always, if you've got something that's really bothering you and it's chronic, see a doctor. If it doesn't go away within a few weeks, get it checked out, find out what's exactly wrong, and get it fixed. You should never have to deal with pain when it comes to your training. Question down below. Till then, be fit, live free.